Hey, good day there. This is Joe Van Cleve. I am an office supply junkie. Welcome to another episode of this series. And today I want to bring to you a little bit of an update on the disc binding systems. I covered this a few videos back about the Levenger Circa, or otherwise known as the Staples Arc disc binding system. And I made an unexpected discovery this week when I was wandering around in my local Hobby Lobby store. Stay tuned. So you might be aware if you've seen these in stores or saw my previous video about this, but this is the Staples Arc disc binding system, and it uses these round discs that have kind of a flange or a lip on the end, and these pages are punched with these half round holes that have the little slots that extend out onto the edge of the paper, and this enables you to insert the pages or pull them out of the binding system just by pushing them. Well, you can insert the pages into the binding system just by pressing them in like that. Of course, I'm doing it backwards, upside down, but yeah, just by like that. And then when you want to remove it, you simply just pull it like that and it comes off real easy. Now, they sell a whole variety of papers that are pre-manufactured with the holes, including these covers. I chose the black covers. This is the Staples Arc, right? And they also have divider tabs. Here I have the divider tab already made. But you can make your own sheets with this system. You just have to have the punch to be able to punch the holes. And so at Staples, that's the place that I go to for this because it's nearby where I live. And at Staples, they sell two different kinds of punches. Okay, the big punch is $44. It's a big, massive punch with kind of a scissors, kind of a handle, and it's kind of expensive. It's too much money for what I want to spend for the punch. And also, it's really big with this handle thing. I don't even know where I'd store the thing, and I don't have enough room in the drawer of my desk for it. But then there's the alternative, which is their little cheap, inexpensive, I say cheap, relatively speaking, inexpensive hand-operated punch like this, and you simply slip the sheets of paper underneath this little plastic support and line up the lines with whatever size paper it is, and then you have to hand punch it. And this works okay. It's about $10, $8 or $10 for this punch. You know, and so that was kind of what I lived with, and it's kind of a little bit crude. It doesn't facilitate you being able to punch these rapidly or a lot of sheets at once. I think this will handle 2 or 3 sheets at once. Anyway, so it was kind of a trade-off between this inexpensive, slow punch versus the fancy big one that's too expensive and too big for my taste. So I was yesterday wandering around my local Hobby Lobby store, and that's a large chain of hobby and craft stores here in the United States. And I was actually doing some prep work for another video coming up on Rolodexes, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, in the matter of looking for Rolodex related stuff at Hobby Lobby, I came across this. This is their Create 365, and it's part of what's called the Happy Planner system. And the Happy Planner system is a disc binding system designed for photo albums and scrapbooks, and I never heard of it before. Well, it turns out that it's essentially very, very close to being the same punching system as the Levenger Circa / Staples Arc system. And let's cover the similarities and differences. So for these medium-sized coil bound or disc bound books that I like to make, these are called the journal size by the Staples Arc system. For the journal size pieces of paper, what I do is I take a standard size sheet of letter paper, 8.5 by 11 in the US, and I cut it in half with a cutter to make 2 sheets of paper, and then I can make 2 pages out of this. And let's hole punch them. and we'll see the differences. So this is the Staples arc system, and I'm gonna, what you do is you put the paper underneath the clear plastic guide and get the bottom of the paper lined up where it says journal size, and then you have to push it down firmly and then pull it up, and you're going to have some chads. Remember hanging chads? That was a thing. Anyway, so you have to pull the chads off. That's one of the things about this I noticed. It does leave a lot of chads. So this is the hole punched with the Staples arc, and I'm going to leave that paper right there. Now this is the new Create 365 punch, and there is a reference line here and here, and I'm going to put the paper on the bottom reference line, and nice punch. And what's nice about it, first of all, it doesn't leave nearly as many chads. It actually has, like, it leaves the little half round parts on some of them, but the open slots are more open, and it doesn't leave as many chads as the other one. So that's kind of good. So let's compare these two now. The one on the left is going to be the Staples arc, and the one on the right is going to be the Create 365 Happy Planner. This type system. Now, let me just orient it this way. First of all, get the holes lined up. So they are the same hole spacing, I will tell you that. And I'm not doing a good job of lining them up for you because I'm trying to get it on the camera, but they are this exact same hole spacing, and they are the same hole shape, and the slots are the same width. The only real difference seems to be, there's two differences. First of all, if you do line up these slots like I'm trying to do, you'll see there is a difference on the edge. There's a difference on the edge of the paper between one and the other, and that is, this one on the bottom is from the Create 365, and it tends to put the hole a little bit further up from the bottom of the paper than the Staples arc punch. And then the second problem, or difference, if you will, is if you line them up this way. Let's see here. I don't know if you can tell, but the Create 365, the holes are deeper, they're further in from the edge of the paper, whereas with the Staples arc, the slot is not as long. So those are two, I would say, minor differences, and I think we can compensate for them. Let me show you how. So for the difference in the vertical starting point of the holes relative to the bottom of the paper, this, what looks like maybe a couple millimeters difference. For that, what I've done with this punching system is I've put a piece of tape, a clear transparent tape along the base of this. I put a marking line, a reference line with a permanent marker, and then I have covered it with another piece of permanent tape so that line will be permanent. This becomes my reference point for punching my holes. And so I line up the paper with that line right there, and I can get the hole spacing to start at the same point relative to the bottom of the paper as with the Staples arc punch, so that I can intermix both pages in a book, and they'll be the same height relative to the disc binding system. Now, as far as the fact that the holes are a different distance away from the edge slightly. The one on your right is the Create 365. The slots are deeper. With this particular punch, I haven't actually hacked it enough to figure out a permanent fix, except when you insert the paper into the punch, right now, the way I do it is I just sort of pull it back out a slight amount like that, but I think I'm going to put some kind of a guide in, or a stopping guide in the bottom, in the back of this, where you don't bottom out the paper all the way in the back of these punches. It stops it a little bit before it gets to there. So it's kind of what I would call a semi-compatible punching system. The holes are the same shape, roughly. They're close enough to work. The slots are the same width. They're just a little bit deeper on the paper. So, oh yeah, and the most important reason why I'm talking about this alternative punching system relative to the other two, this was about $25, the mid-20s in cost, okay? I think this punch is every bit as good as the $44 punch that Staples sells for their ARC system. It's so much better than this little $10 punch that Staples sells that is kind of one sheet at a time and rather primitive and kind of difficult to use. This is well built. I like the color. It really does punch quite well, and I think it you can definitely do more than one page at a time. There's no problem with that. I'm going to punch a couple of them here. Yeah, you can easily do two at once, and makes a nice, clean punch. So the $25 alternative to the $44 Staples punch for doing these disc binding systems. Go to your Hobby Lobby, the Create 365 Happy Planner punch. I think it's a good alternative, and it does fit in my drawer in my office desk here, so I can actually store it and use it. It's not going to be a wasted purchase because I can't find a place to make it practical. So that's my hack for the Create 365 Happy Planner punching system. Hope that you guys can see if you can use this as an alternative to buying the really expensive Staples punch versus the little barely adequate Staples punch. So until next time, this is Joe Van Cleve, and I am an office supply junkie.